Babysitter Storytime Part 4. Watch the other 3 on my page or this is not going to make any sense. So, the chief of police had just cleared my parents. His name was Thad. Shout out Thad if you see this. After my parents were cleared, they have to go through everyone who might have watched me during that time period. Sounds very easy, but at the time my mom was just getting back to work. My mom's a real estate agent, so she had a really flexible schedule, but when she did have to go back to work, it was only for like a couple hours at a time. So literally like every relative I had kept me throughout that time just for a few hours when my mom was at work. I'm talking like everyone, like grandma, grandpa, aunt, uncle, cousins. Everyone except one set of my grandparents. While the court was trying to like find out what happened, they said I had to go stay with that one set of grandparents that I hadn't been with during that time. Still don't really get this, but for some reason, even though my sister was cleared, she had to stay with my other set of grandparents. We weren't allowed to be together. The important part of that is that my parents were not allowed to visit us. Not at all, 0%. Further into the investigation, once most of my family members were cleared, they were allowed to have supervised visitation with the CPS agent. It was still only like an hour at a time. But my parents got both their kids taken away for almost 2 months for something that they did not do. I'm not gonna go through it all, but they cleared all my family members and then they sat my parents back down and they were like, someone had to do it, so who else could it have been? My parents responded that it could possibly have been the babysitter, Kim, and that they would ask her to come in. But at the time, she'd only kept me for a very short amount of time, so it was really unlikely. She came in, they interrogated her, she passed, she was cleared. Little tidbit of this story I'm not 100% sure on because some of my family members remember it very differently. Something like someone had either turned her in or like tipped off the police. Not 100% sure, so please take that with a grain of salt. Basically, the police knew like someone was hiding something. So they interrogated everyone again and made them all go through polygraphs. For sure, Miss Kim failed a question on the polygraph. Once they got the results, they called her back and said, we need to talk to you again. They questioned her again, and a few of her answers like didn't make any sense. Her story wasn't lining up, but it wasn't enough to like get her for anything. So she was let go. I don't know how long after, but she ended up coming back with an attorney and saying that she was wanting to confess with her attorney present. Oh, you're wondering what she confessed to? Pretty much nothing. Literally absolutely nothing. That is the most infuriating thing, to be almost 20 years later and still have no idea what happened. Literally like an anger I can't explain that I wouldn't wish upon my worst enemy. So anyways, all that she said, literally all that she said was the word incident. And that is why I have kept referring to the word incident this whole time, because that is forever what it will be known as to me. Anytime she was directly asked about what happened during this time and this time, the incident occurred. My understanding, it's kind of like pleading no contest. Like, I'm not saying I didn't do it if you can prove it, but I'm not saying I did it if you can't prove it. So, like, the only other person present in the situation was me, untold, with blood bleeding into their frontal lobe. What was I gonna do, testify? It's quite literally all that she said, but the good part of that was that they knew my parents didn't do it, so my parents got to go pick us up. And I'm gonna make one more video about all of the aftermath, meaning the court cases that were obviously had against her and how it affected me and what happened to me. So go to my page for that.